Far across the stars, there was a world unlike any other known to humankind. It was called Virel, a planet of endless green valleys and a single massive mountain that reached far beyond the clouds. The people who lived near it called it Virel Peak. They said no machine had ever survived touching its slopes. Satellites failed when they passed over it. Drones fell from the sky the moment they crossed its border. Sensors jammed, scanners went blind, and even the strongest materials turned brittle as stone. For more than 200 years, no human had reached the top. The Galactic Union had declared the place forbidden territory, not because of any danger from weapons, but because of mystery. In the age of stars and machines, mystery itself was something to be feared. Yet one human refused to accept that. His name was Aaron Vale. Aaron was not a soldier or a scientist. He was an explorer, one of those rare people who still wanted to touch unknown soil with his own hands. He had studied old records of Virel Peak since childhood, always wondering why it rejected all forms of technology. Some said the mountain was alive. Others said it hid something built by the first humans who left Earth centuries ago. Aaron did not care for myths. He wanted to know the truth. When his ship landed on the plains beneath Virel Peak, the ground trembled slightly, as if the planet itself had noticed his arrival. He looked out the window of his small landing craft and saw the mountain rising high into the sky. Its peak was lost in a silver mist, glowing faintly in the sunlight. Aaron stepped outside. The air was clean and cool. His boots sank slightly into the mossy ground. He took a deep breath, savoring the natural scent of soil and wind. He carried no drone, no mechanical helper, not even a powered suit. Everything he wore was made by hand: strong cloth, light armor, and a pack of supplies. He turned on a small recorder attached to his belt. It was one of the few devices that could survive here for a short while. "This is Aaron Vale," he said softly. "First human to step on Virel Peak without aid. My goal is to reach the summit and discover what causes the energy interference. Beginning climb." He switched it off and looked up the slope. The first few hours of climbing were calm. The mountain's base was covered in soft grass and thick vines that shimmered slightly, as if touched by hidden light. The air seemed alive. Every sound, the crunch of his boots, the rustle of his bag, echoed faintly in the open space. It felt as if the mountain was listening. By midday, Aaron reached a steep ridge where stone replaced grass. The wind picked up, carrying a faint hum that made his skin crawl. He paused, glancing around nothing. Then he noticed the silence. There were no birds, no insects, no flowing streams. Only the sound of his own breathing. He continued upward, placing his hands on the cold rock. The stone felt smooth, too smooth for a natural surface. When he looked closer, he saw faint lines running across it, patterns like writing, yet older than any language he knew. He rubbed one line gently. It glowed faint blue beneath his fingers. The glow faded quickly, leaving him in quiet wonder. "What are you?" he whispered to the mountain. By nightfall, he made camp in a small hollow under an overhang. He set up a simple tent made of thermal cloth and lit a small flame with his old-style lighter. He ate a meal of dry fruit and protein cubes while staring at the glowing mist that hung above the mountain. It looked alive when the stars came out. They seemed dim compared to the faint silver glow from the peak. Aaron took out his journal, a real paper one, not digital, and began to write. "Every story about this place speaks of a guardian," he wrote. "A Chimera lady who keeps travelers from reaching the top. No one has ever proven she exists. But if she does, I will meet her. Not as an intruder, but as a human seeking truth." A low wind passed through the valley. It sounded almost like a whisper. He froze for a moment, listening. Then the sound faded. He closed the journal and lay down to rest, unaware that something far above was already watching him. When morning came, the mist had moved lower down the mountain. Aaron packed his gear and continued the climb. The terrain changed quickly: jagged rocks, narrow paths, and walls of dark crystal that reflected his own image back at him. Each reflection looked slightly different, and that unsettled him. At one point, The reflection's eyes glowed faintly blue. He blinked, and it was gone. By afternoon, he reached a high plateau. The air here was thinner, colder, but strangely sweet. The ground pulsed gently under his feet, like the slow heartbeat of a sleeping creature. He knelt and pressed his palm against it. The pulse stopped for a moment, then resumed. He looked up. At the far end of the plateau stood an arch made of black metal. It was smooth and curved, shaped like the bones of some great creature. In the center of the arch shimmered a thin curtain of light, not solid, not air, something between. It was a barrier. Aaron walked closer, his heart pounding. He could feel energy radiating from it, yet it did not burn. He reached out carefully and touched the light with his fingertips. The moment he did, a surge of warmth rushed through him, followed by a voice. It was not loud. It was calm, steady, and carried a strange sadness. "You should turn back, human." Aaron spun around. A figure stood beyond the arch. She was tall and graceful, her body made of both flesh and shining metal. Her face was human, but her eyes glowed with pale silver light. Her armor flowed like liquid across her body, shifting softly as she moved. Strands of hair, silver white, waved gently, though there was no wind. Aaron froze. Every story he had read, every legend he had doubted, now stood before him. "You are the Chimera lady," he said quietly. The figure tilted her head. "That name still survives among your kind?" she asked. Her voice was soft, yet it carried through the air like a song. "You should not be here. The mountain does not welcome trespassers." Aaron took a cautious step forward. "I did not come to take anything. I only want to understand what this place is, why it rejects machines, why it calls to us." The Chimera lady's eyes narrowed slightly. "You speak as if the mountain is yours to question. You are not the first to climb these slopes. Those before you came with pride and left with ashes. I came with no machines," Aaron said. "Only my will and my curiosity." The Chimera lady regarded him for a long moment. The light around her shimmered faintly. Then she stepped closer to the arch. "The mountain protects something ancient," she said. "Something made by your ancestors before the stars knew your name. I guard it because it must not fall into unworthy hands." "Then let me prove my worth," Aaron said. Her gaze softened, almost amused. "Many have said those words. Few meant them." "I mean them," Aaron replied. "If humanity has any right to survive among the stars, it must earn the right to face its own past. Whatever lies beyond that gate belongs to all of us, not to be forgotten." For a moment, silence filled the plateau. The Chimera lady's eyes glowed brighter, and the barrier behind her flickered like a wave of light. Finally, she spoke again. "You may climb higher, but know this: the mountain will test you. It will measure your resolve, your truth, and your heart. If you are false, it will break you. If you are true, it may let you stand before me again." "I accept," Aaron said, without hesitation. The Chimera lady watched him, her expression unreadable. Then she raised one hand. A faint circle of light appeared beneath Aaron's feet. "Then begin your trial, human," she said. "The mountain will decide whether you are worthy to pass." Before Aaron could speak again, the light under him flared and the ground shifted. The world around him blurred, and he found himself standing on a narrow path of stone, suspended high above an endless void. The air grew cold. The sky darkened. The mountain's hum turned into a deep vibration that rattled his bones. Aaron steadied himself, breathing slowly. He looked up toward the faint glow of the peak and whispered, "For humanity." Then he began to climb. High above, the Chimera lady watched through the curtain of light. Her expression was calm, but her voice, when she spoke softly to the wind, carried a trace of sorrow. "Another child of Earth, reaching for what they once lost," she said. "Let us see if this one remembers what it means to be human." The mountain stirred as if it had heard her words. Its slopes trembled faintly, and the silver mist swirled with purpose. Somewhere deep within its heart, ancient machines awoke from long sleep, whispering to one another in forgotten tongues. And so began Aaron Vell's trial, the climb of the Forbidden Mountain. where humanity would be tested not by power, but by the truth within the soul. The path before Aaron was narrow and winding, made of dark stone that gleamed under the faint silver light. Every few steps, the ground trembled slightly, as if the mountain itself was breathing. He felt small in the face of its endless height, yet something deep inside pushed him forward. Each time his foot touched the rock, he felt warmth under the surface, as though the mountain was alive. The air grew colder, and strange patterns glowed faintly along the path, thin lines of blue and gold that moved like flowing water. Aaron wondered if it was some kind of living energy or memory. Trapped inside the mountain for ages, he pressed on. Remembering the words of the Chimera lady, she had told him the mountain would test him, that it would measure his truth. He had no idea what that meant, but he had come too far to turn back. After several hours, he reached a plateau covered with shining crystals that jutted out of the stone like frozen fire. Each crystal reflected his image, but strangely, the reflections did not always match his movements. One reflection smiled while he stood still. Another frowned when he was calm. He took a deep breath and touched one of the crystals. The surface was cold, smooth, and pulsing with faint light. "Are you trying to scare me?" he asked softly, almost amused. The mountain did not answer. But the light inside the crystals flickered. He walked onward, and soon the path split into 3 narrow trails. Each one led upward, but each glowed a different color: red, green, and blue. He hesitated, unsure which to take. Then he remembered something his mentor had once told him back on Earth, when logic fails. Trust the path that feels right, not the one that looks easy. The blue path seemed calm and beautiful, but something about it felt false. The green one shimmered brightly, but its glow hurt his eyes. The red one looked dark and rough, almost hostile. Still, he felt drawn to it. He tightened his gloves and stepped onto the red path. At first, nothing happened. But after a few steps, the ground behind him crumbled away, leaving only empty air. He froze, realizing there was no going back. The red path twisted sharply, forcing him to grip the walls for balance. Every breath he took sent small clouds of vapor into the cold air. As he climbed, faint whispers began to rise from the stone around him. They were soft at first, like wind through grass, but soon they became clearer. Voices of people, hundreds of them, speaking in sorrowful tones. "Turn back, traveler. There is only loss ahead. You cannot change what has already been done." Aaron clenched his fists and kept walking. "I am not afraid of the past," he said. The voices grew louder, overlapping until they sounded like a storm of memories. He could almost see shapes in the mist, people wearing strange armor, carrying banners of Earth, marching toward an unseen battle. For a moment, he felt dizzy. Images flashed before his eyes, ships burning in space, cities falling, humans fighting among themselves. He stumbled and dropped to one knee, gripping the rock. "This is not real," he whispered. When he opened his eyes, the images vanished. The air was clear again. The mountain had shown him something, perhaps a memory from a time long ago. He stood and continued the climb, though the path now seemed endless. His hands ached, his knees trembled, but the thought of quitting never crossed his mind, after what felt like hours. He reached a ledge where the air shimmered strangely. He stepped through the shimmer and found himself standing in a vast open chamber carved into the mountain itself. The walls glowed faintly, covered in the same strange patterns he had seen below. In the center of the chamber floated a sphere of light the size of a human heart. As he approached it, the light grew brighter, then dimmed again, as if breathing. When he touched it, his surroundings vanished. He was standing in a wide courtyard under a bright sky. It looked ancient, built of white stone, and filled with people, humans dressed in uniforms of silver and blue. Ships flew overhead, their shapes elegant and unfamiliar. Aaron realized he was witnessing a memory. The people could not see him. At the far end of the courtyard stood a tall woman clad in armor made of flowing metal. Her face was kind yet proud, her silver hair shining in the sun. It was the Chimera lady, though she looked more human here. She stood beside a group of scientists who were speaking in urgent tones. She is ready, one of them said. The Guardian will defend the core until humanity proves itself again. Another replied, Are we sure this is the only way? Once she is bound to the mountain, she will be alone. The Chimera lady raised her hand. I chose this duty, she said. If our kind falls into darkness, someone must protect what we were, the truth of who we are. The memory blurred and faded. The courtyard dissolved, and Aaron was back in the glowing chamber, standing alone. He stared at the sphere of light. You were made to guard something precious, he murmured. But what did we lose that made such a guardian necessary? The light pulsed once, as if in response. Then it flickered and disappeared into the wall. The chamber trembled, and Aaron felt the air grow heavy. A voice filled the space, calm, strong, and familiar. You have seen what was, traveler. He turned around and saw the Chimera lady standing at the entrance of the chamber. She looked the same as before, her silver eyes steady and bright. You again, he said. You showed me the past, didn't you? The mountain reveals what it chooses, she said. You saw the truth of my creation. I was built by humans long ago when their light began to fade. They made me to guard what they could not protect, the heart of their memory. The core, Aaron said softly. The thing you mentioned before, she nodded. The core of humanity. It holds the essence of what your kind once was, their courage, their kindness, their history. When the great wars destroyed the old worlds, they sealed it here so it would never be used for conquest again. Aaron listened in silence. Her words carried a weight he could feel in his chest. You said you guard it from the unworthy, he said. How do you decide who is worthy? Her eyes narrowed slightly. The mountain decides. It reads the soul. It knows fear, greed, and hope. Those who climb with selfish hearts are broken before they reach me. Aaron hesitated. And if I fail? Then you will return to dust, as all before you, she said simply. But if you succeed, you may look upon what no human has seen for 1,000 years. Aaron met her gaze. Then I will not stop. Humanity deserves to know its past. The Chimera lady tilted her head, studying him. You speak with conviction, yet conviction alone is not enough. You must prove your truth. How? He asked. She raised her hand, and a circle of silver light appeared beneath his feet. Step through this gate, she said. Face what lies beyond. It will not harm you, but it will show you what kind of man you are. Aaron took a deep breath and stepped into the light. Instantly, the world around him shifted again. He was no longer in the mountain, but standing in the ruins of a great city. Towers lay broken, and the sky burned red with falling debris. The air was thick with smoke and sorrow. He heard cries in the distance, people calling for help. Without thinking, he ran toward the sound. He found a group of people trapped under fallen beams. Their faces were frightened, their clothes torn. He tried to lift the debris, but it was too heavy. His hands bled, but he did not stop. He kept trying until the beams finally moved. The people vanished the moment they were free. The city faded into mist. Then he stood once more before the Chimera lady. She was watching him quietly. What was that? He asked, breathing hard. A memory shaped by your own heart, she replied. It shows your instinct. You run toward those in need, even when there is no reward. She paused, then added softly, Perhaps there is truth in you after all. Aaron met her gaze again. You said the mountain tests the soul. Is this the end of the trial? Not yet, she said. The mountain has one final test for you. When you reach the summit, you will stand before the core itself. What you choose to do then will decide your fate. She turned away, her armor glimmering in the dim light. Climb higher, Aaron Vale. The truth of humanity waits for those who dare to face themselves. The chamber walls began to dissolve, revealing another path leading upward, narrow and steep. Covered with a thin layer of silver dust, Aaron adjusted his pack and stepped forward. The path seemed endless again, but his heart was steady. The Chimera lady's words echoed in his mind as he began the climb. The mountain reads the soul. As he ascended, he felt lighter, almost weightless, as if the air itself was watching him. He looked back once, but the chamber and the guardian were gone. Above him, the summit shone like a distant star. The wind carried a faint voice, not loud but gentle, as if speaking from the heart of the mountain. "Do not lose your humanity, traveler," it whispered. Aaron smiled faintly. "Never," he said, and so he climbed. Unaware that the greatest test was yet to come, a test that would not measure his strength or courage, but his understanding of what it truly meant to be human. The path became narrower as Aaron climbed higher, twisting around sharp cliffs and jagged rocks that gleamed faintly under the silver light of Virel Peak. The wind howled softly, carrying a strange energy that made the hairs on his arms stand on end. Every step felt heavier than the last, as though the mountain itself were testing his determination. His breath came in short gasps, and the air thinned sharply. He felt the familiar pull of fatigue pressing on his body, yet his mind refused to surrender. He thought of the Chimera lady's words, "The mountain reads the soul. Those who are false are broken before they reach me." He tightened his grip on the stone walls that lined the narrow path. The rock was smooth in some places and rough in others, like it was alive. When his hand pressed against the surface, he felt faint pulses of energy beneath his fingers. Each pulse felt like a heartbeat, slow and steady, yet powerful. The path suddenly widened into a small plateau carved from dark crystal. The surface shimmered like liquid under his feet. As he stepped forward, the air grew warmer, and a soft light appeared, not from the sky, but from the stones themselves. Aaron paused and looked around. Shadows moved among the crystals, taking the shapes of people he did not recognize. They were not real, yet they seemed alive, whispering, laughing, crying, each expression vivid and full of emotion. He stepped closer to one of the figures. It resembled a young human boy, no older than 10. The boy held a small device in his hands and smiled up at Aaron. "Who are you?" Aaron asked softly. The boy did not answer. Instead, the world shifted. Aaron found himself standing in a place he had never seen before, a vast city. It's empty and silent, with towers reaching toward a sky painted in red and gold. The streets were empty, but signs of life were everywhere. Scattered toys, books lying open, and gardens overgrown with tall grass. Arin realized the city was a memory, or perhaps a vision created by the mountain itself. He could sense the energy of countless people who had lived and worked here. "Why show me this?" he whispered. The city responded not with words, but with feeling. He felt the lives of those who had walked here, their hopes, their fears, their joy, and their sorrow. Each heartbeat seemed to echo in his own chest. He understood, suddenly, that the mountain was not just a test of strength. It was a test of empathy, of understanding the human experience. A soft sound drew his attention. At the top of a nearby tower stood a figure, cloaked in silver light. Its shape was familiar. The Chimera lady. She did not move toward him, but her presence filled the city like a protective aura. Aaron stepped forward carefully, feeling the memories pressing around him. The city whispered warnings, not with words, but with sensations of loss. He saw people running from shadows, buildings crumbling, skies burning. The visions were intense, yet they did not frighten him. Instead, they made him more determined. He walked through the city, touching objects, feeling their history. Each interaction sent waves of emotion through him, sadness for those who had suffered, joy for those who had created beauty. He realized that the mountain demanded not just courage, but understanding. Only by recognizing the depth of humanity could one proceed. The city began to fade, placed by a cavern of stone deep inside the mountain. It was dark, but the walls shimmered faintly with light, guiding his steps. The air was heavy, yet it carried a sense of purpose. Aaron knew he was nearing the heart of the trial. A low hum filled the cavern. It was not sound exactly, but vibration. Aaron could feel it in his chest, in his bones. He stopped and closed his eyes, focusing on the rhythm. It was the heartbeat of the mountain, steady and unyielding. "Keep walking," a voice whispered. He recognized it immediately. The Chimera lady. Aaron opened his eyes. A figure appeared at the far end of the cavern, half shrouded in light. Her silver hair flowed like liquid, and her eyes glowed softly. "You have come far, human," she said. "But the mountain will test you one final time. Not with strength, not with fear, but with your resolve. Do you understand what that means?" Aaron nodded. "I am ready. Show me." She raised her hand, and the floor beneath him glowed. Aaron felt himself lifted slightly, as if the ground no longer held him. The walls of the cavern melted into mist, and he found himself in a place that was both familiar and strange. He stood on a plateau surrounded by clouds, floating high above the mountain. In the distance, he could see stars, but they were closer than any he had ever seen, shining like bright lanterns. Beneath him, the clouds stretched endlessly, glowing faintly. A figure approached from the mist, not the Chimera lady, but another human. A man, tall and strong, wearing the uniform of a soldier. He carried no weapon, but his eyes were cold and unreadable. "You do not belong here," the figure said. "I belong wherever the mountain leads me," Aaron replied. The figure moved closer, and suddenly Aaron felt an overwhelming fear. Images flashed before his eyes: failure, shame, rejection. Every mistake he had ever made, every moment of weakness, appeared before him. He stumbled back, fighting to remain standing. The figure spoke again, softer this time. "The mountain tests more than courage. It tests truth. Can you face yourself and still walk forward?" Aaron steadied himself. He looked at the figure, then closed his eyes. He thought of every choice he had made, every risk, every moment he had acted for something greater than himself. He thought of humanity, its history, its mistakes, and its victories. He thought of the people who had created the Chimera lady, those who had protected what was precious. When he opened his eyes, the figure was gone. The fear and images vanished. The plateau shimmered, revealing a path of silver light leading upward. Aaron realized he had passed this part of the trial. The mountain had accepted his resolve, his truth. He continued along the path. The air grew warmer, and he felt energy flowing around him, lifting his spirits. He looked up at the summit, still far above, glowing like a distant star. As he walked, he saw images of other humans, explorers like himself, who had attempted the climb before. Some were broken by fear, some turned back in doubt, and some had vanished entirely. The mountain remembered them all. Their courage, their failures, their hearts all recorded in the energy that flowed around him. Aaron felt a sense of connection to them. He was not just climbing for himself. He was climbing for all of humanity. To honor their dreams and their struggles, the path narrowed again, forcing him to climb carefully along a steep edge. The wind was stronger here, and he could feel the pull of the clouds beneath him. Every step required focus, every movement measured. Suddenly, the air shifted, and he felt a presence beside him. He looked up to see the Chimera lady floating above the path, her silver armor glowing softly. "You have come far, Aaron Vale," she said. "Few have reached this height. Few have proven their resolve." "Thank you," he replied. "Your trial is not over, but I understand now. It is not just the mountain I must face, but myself. I must show the truth of my heart." She inclined her head. "Good. The mountain will now show you its greatest truth. The core of humanity lies ahead. You must choose how to face it." Aaron felt a mix of excitement and fear. He had imagined this moment for years, yet nothing could prepare him for the reality. The core was not just a prize or an object. It was the essence of all that humanity had been and hoped to be. The Chimera lady extended her hand, pointing toward a narrow path that disappeared into the clouds. "Walk carefully," she said. "Each step must be measured. The mountain does not forgive haste." Aaron nodded and began the climb. The path twisted and turned, often disappearing into mist. He relied on his instincts, trusting the lessons he had learned during the trial. He felt the mountain pulsing beneath him, steady and strong. It was alive, and it recognized his determination. He smiled faintly, feeling a sense of unity with it. Hours passed. The sun seemed distant, replaced by a soft silver glow. The air grew lighter, warmer, as if welcoming him. At last, he reached a plateau that opened into a vast space filled with light. The core floated at the center, a sphere of pure energy, glowing with all the colors of the universe. Aaron approached, feeling the hum of its power. He realized that this was more than a machine or a crystal. It was memory, history, and hope, all combined. The Chimera lady appeared beside him, her gaze calm and proud. "You have climbed far, human. You have faced fear, doubt, and the truth of yourself. Now you must decide what you will do with what you see." Aaron took a deep breath. His journey had tested him in ways he had never imagined. He had learned about humanity, about courage, and about the responsibility that came with knowledge. He looked at the core, feeling the weight of countless generations upon him. He knew that his choice here would shape not just his destiny, but the legacy of humanity itself. "I will honor it," he said softly. "I will carry its truth forward, not for power, but for understanding. For hope." The Chimera lady's eyes glowed softly. "Then perhaps humanity has finally earned its place among the stars." Aaron smiled, feeling a sense of peace and accomplishment. The mountain had tested him, and he had passed. The trial of resolve was complete, and the path ahead would reveal even greater truths. The core pulsed gently, sending waves of light throughout the space. The mountain seemed to hum in approval, acknowledging the courage and truth within the human heart. And high above, the summit of Virel Peak shimmered, waiting for the next part of Aaron's journey. The core floated before Aaron, a glowing sphere that pulsed with light like a heartbeat. Its colors shifted endlessly, blues, golds, reds, and greens blending together, creating patterns he could barely comprehend. The energy it gave off was warm, not burning, and yet it filled him with a feeling of awe he had never experienced before. He took a careful step closer, feeling the hum of its power in his chest. Every fiber of his being vibrated with it, as if the mountain itself was alive and speaking to him. The Chimera lady stood silently beside the core. Her silver hair flowed like liquid, and her eyes glowed softly with the light of the sphere. She had not moved when he approached, yet her presence was calm and commanding. "You have proven yourself, Aaron Vale," she said. Her voice was gentle, carrying no threat, only observation. "Few have reached this place. Fewer still have passed the trial of resolve. Now the final step awaits you." Aaron looked at her carefully. "What must I do?" he asked. The Chimera lady tilted her head, her eyes softening. "The core does not belong to one person. It belongs to humanity itself. Yet before it can be shared, the one who stands here must understand it fully. You must give me a kiss, not of love, but of understanding. Only then can the core reveal itself to you." Aaron blinked in surprise. He had expected trials of strength or courage, tests of mind or spirit. He had not expected this. Yet something in her gaze told him that it was the key to the next step. "What does it mean?" he asked cautiously. "It means," she said, "to connect fully with another being, to share trust and understanding. Your heart must be open, your mind clear. Only then can the truth of the core enter you." Aaron nodded. He stepped closer, feeling the warmth of her presence, the pulse of the mountain, and the quiet energy of the core itself. He had faced fear, illusion, and doubt. He had learned to understand the lives and memories of those who had come before. This, he realized, was a test of empathy, the ability to share understanding without judgment. He knelt slightly, lowering his forehead toward hers. The Chimera lady did the same. The moment their foreheads touched, a wave of light surged around them, flowing from the core. Through the mountain and into them both, Aaron gasped as visions filled his mind. They were not his own memories, but he felt them as though they were. He saw the mountain in ages long past, humans working together in harmony. Building the Chimera lady, he saw their courage, their kindness, and their determination to survive even when everything seemed lost. He felt their joys and their fears. He felt the sacrifices they had made, the hope they had held on to, and the pain of mistakes they could not undo. The experience was overwhelming, yet he did not panic. He allowed the emotions to flow through him, observing, feeling, understanding without fear or judgment. The Chimera lady's presence beside him was constant, steady, and guiding. She shared her memories as well, but they were different. She showed him what she had felt, guarding the core through centuries, waiting for the right human to arrive. He sensed her loyalty, her sorrow for the losses she had witnessed, and her quiet pride in those she had protected. Aaron realized that the kiss was not just a gesture. It was a merging of understanding, a bridge between human and guardian, past and present. He felt connected to her and to the core, as though all the history of humanity had converged in that moment. Time lost meaning. Seconds became hours, and ours became an eternity. Yet he did not feel fatigue or fear. He felt clarity. He understood that the core was not simply a repository of knowledge or memory. It was the essence of what humanity had been and could become, the sum of courage, empathy, creativity, and hope. The visions shifted again. He saw civilizations that had risen and fallen, explorers reaching for the stars and children learning the ways of the universe. He felt the connection between all humans, the invisible thread that linked them across time and space. Finally, the light began to fade, leaving only the gentle glow of the core and the soft silver radiance of the Chimera lady. Aaron stepped back slightly, breathing deeply. He felt lighter, as if a weight he had not known he carried had been lifted. "You have done well," the Chimera lady said, her voice calm and warm. "Through the kiss of understanding, you have proven that your heart is open, your mind clear, and your purpose true. You have seen the core not as a tool, but as a mirror of humanity itself." Aaron nodded, still absorbing the experience. "I understand now," he said softly. "The core is not just history. It is guidance, hope, and responsibility. It is proof of what humanity can be when it acts with wisdom and care." The Chimera lady's eyes softened further. "Exactly. And because you have understood, you may carry the truth of the core forward. You may share it with your kind, not as a weapon or prize, but as a light to guide them." Aaron looked at the sphere, feeling a deep sense of respect. He reached out and touched the light. A gentle hum filled his chest, and he felt knowledge, wisdom, and understanding flow into him. He could see the patterns of human history, the triumphs and failures, the lessons learned and forgotten. He felt their weight and their value, and he knew he could bear them. "You are ready," the Chimera lady said. "The mountain recognizes your resolve and your understanding. Your trial is complete." Aaron bowed slightly, feeling gratitude and reverence. "Thank you," he said. "I will honor this gift. I will carry it with care and respect." The core's light pulsed once, then began to rise slowly into the air. It expanded, surrounding Aaron and the Chimera lady in a soft, radiant glow. The entire chamber vibrated gently, and he felt as though the mountain itself was breathing in approval. The Chimera lady stepped back. "You have passed where so many have failed," she said. "Remember, the core is not a treasure to possess. It is a responsibility to uphold. Carry it wisely, and humanity will thrive." Aaron watched the sphere of light slowly descend into a pedestal that had appeared from the mist. The core was accessible now, yet it was not something to take lightly. He realized that the journey up the mountain was not just about reaching a physical summit. It was about reaching a summit of understanding, of character, of human spirit. He turned to the Chimera lady. "Will you continue to guard the mountain?" he asked. Her gaze was calm. "I will always guard the mountain, but now I can rest in knowing that the truth of humanity is safe in your hands. The mountain will test others who are worthy, and I will guide them as I guided you." Aaron nodded, feeling a deep connection to her and to the mountain itself. He had climbed, he had learned, and he had been tested in ways he had never imagined. Yet he felt stronger, wiser, and more certain of humanity's potential than ever before. The mountain stirred around him. Crystals shimmered, paths shifted slightly, and the air hummed with life. The core pulsed gently, like a living heart. Aaron took one last look at the Chimera lady. "Thank you," he said softly, "for everything." She inclined her head, a small smile touching her lips. Go, Aaron Vale. Share what you have learned. Let humanity remember who it is and what it can become. He turned toward the path leading down the mountain. Each step was lighter than before, each breath easier. He felt as though he carried a piece of the mountain itself in his heart, a piece of the core and the wisdom of the Chimera lady as he descended. He thought of the people he would meet, the lessons he would share, and the future that awaited humanity. The mountain had tested him in body, mind, and soul. He had faced fear, illusions, and the depth of human history. Now he walked with understanding, empathy, and courage. The air grew warmer as he descended further, and he could see the plains of Virel spreading out below him. The wind carried a faint whisper, soft and gentle. Do not forget, it said. The heart of humanity is in you. Aaron smiled. I will not forget, he whispered. High above, the summit of Virel Peak shimmered in silver light. The Chimera lady remained, watching silently. Yet in her gaze was pride, knowing that she had finally found a human worthy of understanding the core. The mountain. Once silent and forbidding, now hummed gently, as though at peace. The trial had been completed, but its lessons would endure. Flowing through the generations who came after, Aaron Vale continued downward, carrying the knowledge, hope, and truth of the core. Every step was a promise to honor humanity's past and guide its future. He had faced the mountain and the Chimera lady, and he had been transformed. The world below awaited him, and with it, the chance to show that humans could rise above fear, above doubt, and above weakness. He had seen the truth of humanity, and he would ensure it was remembered. The light of the core pulsed gently behind him, a reminder that knowledge, understanding, and empathy were the true strength of humankind. The mountain had tested him, and he had passed, carrying forward the legacy of courage, wisdom, and hope. And so, with the lessons of the Chimera lady and the core within him, Aaron Vale descended, ready to face the world with the knowledge that humanity's heart was both fragile and powerful, and that its future was his to honor. The descent from Virel Peak was unlike any climb Aaron had ever experienced. The mountain, once cold and forbidding, now seemed alive with quiet energy. Every step felt lighter, as if the path itself encouraged him to move forward. The core's light, once overwhelming in the summit's chamber, lingered softly within him, pulsing in rhythm with his heartbeat. Aaron paused on a wide ledge and looked out over the valley below. The plains stretched endlessly, dotted with forests and rivers that gleamed in the early sunlight. Birds soared freely here, singing in voices unbroken by the mountain's energy. For the first time in days, Aaron felt the full warmth of life around him, and a quiet sense of peace settled in his chest. He thought of the Chimera lady, still standing atop the peak. She had been his guide, his teacher, and his mirror. Her wisdom had shown him that humanity's true strength did not lie in machines, weapons, or conquest, but in understanding, courage, and empathy. The memory of the kiss of understanding returned vividly the moment their foreheads touched. The flood of knowledge, the merging of hearts and minds. He had glimpsed centuries of human history, the triumphs and failures, the lost civilizations, and the hope that had always endured. He understood that the core was not a prize or a weapon. It was a mirror reflecting the potential of every human being, the essence of their courage, wisdom, and heart. As he began to descend the final stretch, the mountain pulsed beneath his feet, gently guiding him toward the plains. The glowing lines in the rocks shifted into patterns that told stories of explorers who had tried and failed, of the Chimera lady standing guard, of humans who had reached for the stars in ages long past. Each pattern felt alive, a message from the mountain itself. Learn, remember, and honor what has come before. When he finally reached the base of Virel Peak, the plains felt expansive, familiar, yet changed. Aaron looked back at the towering summit, shimmering faintly in silver light. A feeling of awe filled him. He had faced the trials, understood the core, and emerged transformed. He knelt on the soft grass, closing his eyes, and let the memories of the mountain and the core flow through him one last time. He could feel the lessons in every fiber of his being. True courage is not the absence of fear. True strength is not the power to destroy, but the will to protect. Understanding is the key to unity, and empathy is the heart of humanity. He rose slowly, straightening his back. The journey had changed him, but it had also given him purpose. The knowledge he carried was too important to keep for himself. It was a legacy meant to guide humanity, to inspire them to reach higher and act with wisdom and care. The wind carried a faint, gentle whisper, soft and almost musical. "Do not forget," it said. Aaron smiled, recognizing the voice as that of the Chimera lady. "Remember what you have learned, and guide your kind with truth and courage. Will not forget," he whispered. Irene began the journey back to the nearest settlement. He had traveled across the stars to reach Varel, and now he would carry its lessons back to humanity. Every step was deliberate, measured, filled with confidence and purpose. He felt the mountain's energy flow through him, not as a burden, but as a reminder of responsibility and hope. As he walked through the valleys, he reflected on the journey. Every challenge had tested him: the illusions of the city, the visions of past civilizations, the weight of the mountain's judgment. Each step had forced him to confront not only fear, but also his understanding of humanity itself. He realized that the trials had not been designed to punish him, but to teach him the meaning of courage, empathy, and wisdom. He thought of the explorers who had come before him. Many had been broken by pride, by fear, or by lack of understanding. He now carried their hopes and their lessons within him. He would honor them, not by repeating their failures, but by embracing the truth of what it meant to be human. As he approached the outskirts of the nearest village, he saw the locals gathered near the river. They were simple people, living quietly, unaware of the mysteries that lay atop the mountain. Yet their eyes held curiosity, a spark of wonder at the world beyond their home. Aaron smiled. The Corps' wisdom would reach them too, in time. Through the stories he would share, through the guidance he would give, a young girl ran toward him, her laughter ringing across the plain. "Did you see the mountain?" she asked eagerly. "Is it true that the top glows at night?" Aaron crouched to meet her eyes. "Yes," he said softly, smiling. "It glows with the memory of all who came before. It teaches those who are ready to understand." Her eyes widened. "Can it teach us too?" "Yes," he replied. "If you are willing to listen with your heart and learn with courage, the mountain can teach everyone." Word spread quickly through the village. People came from nearby settlements to see him, curious about his journey. Aaron shared the story of his climb, the trials, the visions, and the kiss of understanding. He spoke of the core not as a treasure, but as a mirror of humanity's potential. Many listened in awe. They had never thought of humanity in this way, as a being capable of wisdom, empathy, and courage, not just power or knowledge. Aaron explained that the core was a reminder of the importance of responsibility, understanding, and the value of every human life. Among the listeners, some were skeptical. Others were inspired. Yet all felt the truth in his words. Even the youngest children understood a little, sensing the importance of courage and empathy in their own lives. Over the following days, Aaron worked to help the villagers learn from his journey. He taught them the lessons of the mountain, that fear was natural, but courage was choice, that understanding others was a form of strength, and that humanity's greatest power came not from machines or weapons, but from the hearts and minds of its people. He also told them about the Chimera lady, the guardian of the mountain. He described her not as a being to fear, but as a teacher and protector. The villagers listened with reverence. They understood that she had waited centuries for a human worthy of understanding, and that her trust in him was both an honor and a responsibility. One evening, as the sun set over the plains, Aaron sat by a river and watched the reflection of Virel peek in the water. The summit shimmered faintly in silver light, a silent reminder of the journey he had completed. He felt the pulse of the core within him, steady and gentle. A thought came to him: the journey had not ended with the mountain. It had begun a new chapter, one where the lessons he had learned would shape the future. Humanity had survived countless challenges. Yet it was the ability to learn from the past, to act with empathy, and to value life that would determine its true strength. The river's gentle flow reminded him of the core's light constant, guiding and alive. He realized that the journey of understanding, of growth, was never-ending. Each human who learned from him, each child who dreamed of exploring the stars, carried a piece of the core forward. He smiled softly, feeling a quiet pride. He had faced the mountain, endured its trials, and emerged with knowledge that could guide humanity for generations. Yet he remained humble, aware that the mountain's lessons were larger than any one person that night. He lay under the stars and looked toward the summit. Somewhere high above, the Chimera lady watched silently, her silver eyes reflecting the light of the core. She had trusted him, and in doing so, had shared the essence of humanity with someone worthy. Aaron closed his eyes, letting the memories and lessons settle within him. He felt the strength of the mountain, the wisdom of the core, and the quiet presence of the guardian. In that moment, he understood the true meaning of the journey. It was not just about reaching the summit, but about carrying its lessons forward to light the way for others. Morning came, and Aaron rose to meet the new day. He had a path to follow, a mission to share the core's knowledge and inspire humanity to reach higher. The plains stretched before him, bright and alive. The villages, the forests, and the rivers all seemed fuller, imbued with the quiet energy of hope and understanding. As he began the journey back to the wider world, he knew that the mountain would remain, a silent teacher and protector. It would continue to challenge those who sought its truth, guiding humanity in its own way, and he would carry its lessons, ensuring that the core's wisdom was never forgotten. Years later, travelers who climbed Virel Peak would speak of a man named Aaron Vale, the human who had faced the trials, understood the core, and returned to share its light. They would tell stories of the Chimera lady, not as a figure to fear, but as a guardian and teacher who had trusted a human to carry forward the truth of humanity. And though the mountain remained quiet and imposing, its energy continued to hum gently, a pulse of life and wisdom, waiting for the next human willing to learn. The core's light, carried in Aaron's heart, flowed through the generations. Humanity remembered its lessons, that courage, empathy, and understanding were the greatest powers of all. And the legacy of the mountain, the guardian, and the core endured, a beacon of hope and truth for all who sought it. Aaron Vale looked back one final time as he walked toward the horizon. The summit shimmered faintly, a silent promise that knowledge, understanding, and hope would always await those who dared to reach for them. He carried the legacy forward, not as a conqueror, but as a teacher, a guide, and a witness to the enduring spirit of humanity.